Ladies and gentlemen, this is a huge story. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. New York Post. The Hill. Gabbard refers intel leaks to DOJ. DNI Tulsi Gabbard refers two alleged leakers to Department of Justice for prosecution. Third on its way. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a fabricated, the prosecutions, the arrest, the eventual arrests, or essentially what's taking place is that people are going to be arrested. That's real. The story, the Signalgate story, is completely fabricated. What is actually real is that people are going to be held accountable. Whether it's the individuals that were let go or fired, that remains to be seen. The people that were referred for criminal prosecution, yes. So the people that were let go from the Pentagon, from Hegseth's office, and you'll hear from Mike Waltz and the Atlantic writer in a second. The people who were let go, there's a question mark. If you watch Tucker Carlson, there's an effort to just purge anti-war voices. However, you have Tulsi Gabbard referring three individuals for criminal prosecution. Arrests are imminent. Check this out. I want to explain the entire Signalgate absurd hoax, fabricated story, almost certainly fabricated story, is completely meaningless. You will hear why in a second. I'll just give you a 10-second explanation. Either the Atlantic writer has classified data and he could potentially, possibly be indicted under the Espionage Act for deliberately storing, taking a screenshot and storing classified data on his phone or Atlantic computers, potentially, possibly. That is a huge issue that points back to the Atlantic and the journalist. The issue, ladies and gentlemen, with the Signal chat is that there was no classified data. The sensitive information shouldn't have been on a classified chat, but Clinton had classified data, top secret intelligence on servers less than 10 years ago, or around 10 years ago. And nobody who cares today cared at all with 4 years of servers, classified special access program intelligence, top secret intelligence. I'm wondering why the Atlantic didn't care. I'm wondering why that journalist didn't care about top secret intelligence on Hillary Clinton's private secret servers located outside of the U.S. government. But anyway, let's continue. We can go on forever. The Atlantic should do a story on what the Honorable James Comey said. Classified data was being transferred and forwarded to Anthony Weiner's computer, which is why Comey wrote the Comey letter. I'm wondering what the Atlantic thinks of that, or the New York Times or the Washington Post. But anyway, hit subscribe, listen to this. We'll get to exactly why this all points back to the publication.
Look, I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure everything's coordinated.
But how did the number? I mean, I don't mean to be pedantic here, but how did the number?
Have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name, and then you have somebody else's number there?
I never make those mistakes.
Right? You got somebody else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loser in the group. It looked like someone else. Now whether he did it deliberately or it happened in some other technical mean is something we're trying to figure out.
So your staffer did not put his contact information.
No,
but how did it end up in your
phone? That's
what
we're trying to figure out.
Okay, but that's a pretty big problem.
That's what we've got the best technical minds, right?
That's disturbing.
And that's where, I mean, I'm sure everybody out there has had a contact where it was said one person and then a different phone number.
But you've never talked to him before, so how's the number on your phone? I mean, I'm not an expert in any of this, but it's just curious. How's the number on your phone?
Well, if you have somebody else's contact and then somehow it gets
someone
sucked
sent
in,
you that
it gets
contact.
sucked in.
Was there someone else supposed to be on the chat that wasn't on the chat that you thought was?
So the person that I thought was on there was never on there. It was this
Who
guy.
was that? What person?
Well, I'm not. Look, okay. Laura, I take responsibility. I built the group.
Okay.
So. But look, that's the part that we have to figure out. And that's the part that embarrassing, yes. But Pete and I are veterans. We know these operations. He has been an excellent Secretary of Defense. And this was an operation that, I mean, it amazes me. I guess the Democrats were fine to leave all the sea lanes shut down. We're fine to have destroyers fired on dozens of times by this terrorist group, and fine to have Iran keep supplying them missiles. That was okay. The president takes decisive action. And now we're seeing some real success in taking down their air defenses, opening the sea lanes, taking out their leadership.
Again, so I love Trump because when it comes to U.S. presidents, he's the anti-war choice. Doesn't mean he's a pacifist, okay? But watch the segment prior to this one. He just is close to a peace deal with Russia to end, and the other country to end a global conflict. This is something Democrats didn't want to end. The Atlantic journalist, it's very interesting. The Atlantic journalist pushes back on the notion that he was accidentally added, which then completely destroys his excuse for taking screenshots, because he thought that this could have been accidental, a rogue actor. He didn't know why he was added. Then he explains, oh, I was added for this purpose. Listen to this.
And then somehow it gets
someone
sucked
sent
in.
You that
it gets
contact.
sucked in.
Jeffrey, what do you make of those explanations?
This isn't the Matrix. Phone numbers don't just get sucked into other phones. I don't know what he's talking about there. Very frequently in journalism, the most obvious explanation is the explanation. My phone number was in his phone because my phone number is in his phone. He's telling everyone that he's never met me or spoken to me. That's simply not true. I understand why he's doing it.
So then why on earth on CNN did this Atlantic writer say he had no clue how he was added onto the chat? Ladies and gentlemen, this could be grounds for prosecution. I'm not saying that Jeffrey Goldberg is going to be absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, indicted or arrested or convicted of the Espionage Act. That would be absurd for me to say. If Jeffrey Goldberg screenshotted deliberately, knowing that he knew Hegseth and Waltz and everyone there, knowing that it would be very possible and likely and plausible that he would be added onto a Signal chat, then what on earth is his excuse for taking screenshots if indeed he was added on accidentally? The whole point here is that this is a political stunt. Yes, it's embarrassing. Is it 1/1 of Hillary Clinton's private secret servers with top secret intelligence almost certainly illegally transferred onto secret servers from the Pentagon and other secure government locations? Hillary Clinton had top secret and special access program intelligence on her emails. Nobody in the U.S. government could access her servers. On the other hand, she could access classified data, and apparently oftentimes did, and stored them on computer servers outside the U.S. government, manned by people who were paid outside the U.S. government. Her first 3 months of emails are missing, according to James Comey, and he wrote the Comey letter because if you listen to testimony, and we've talked about this, we've seen the testimony on this channel. The testimony from James Comey was that she was forwarding classified data, Uma Abedin was, from her computer to Anthony Weiner's computer. So you have a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where, let's just continue really quickly.
But this has become a somewhat farcical situation. There's no subterfuge here. My number was in his phone. He mistakenly added me to the group chat. There we go.
There goes his initial excuse of why he took screenshots on CNN, which was, oh my goodness, I had no clue how I got on it. It was so stunning and surprising to me. Then this.
Well, let me answer it this way. When the texts are coming over as I'm watching them unfold, it's 11:44 a.m. On a Saturday. Said this promising that U.S. warplanes are taking off in 30 minutes to bomb enemy targets that we know are protected by anti-aircraft batteries. Okay. So if that's not the most sensitive information, the most secret information in the world, I simply don't know what the meaning of classified or secret or top secret is.
So if this man knew that this was the definition of classified intelligence, and he knew that he could have easily been added onto the chat because he already met these individuals, and Waltz and Hegseth and others potentially had his phone number on their phones, then why did he take screenshots simply to try to take down Trump's administration, knowing very well that he could have in a plausible manner been added onto a classified data chat? Which one is it? He didn't know if these were rogue actors and he had no idea what's going on, so he wanted to take screenshots? Or he took screenshots deliberately knowing that he could be added on to a chat because they had his phone number, and oh, by the way, it was classified data that he wanted to publicize to the world to harm Trump's administration. You think that's possible Espionage Act indictment? Hit subscribe to this channel right now.